Hello and welcome to the special interest group on routing security. Before I hand over the microphone to Aftab Siddiqui, the chair of routing security, just want to run a couple of housekeeping notes. I'm sure you're all familiar with those since this is the third day of the conference. But if this is your first time joining an APNIC meeting or APNIC conference, just be mindful of the code of conduct, which is published on the APNIC 52 website as well as in the chat box. If you have any questions, we are using a Zoom meeting, so you can all see each other. Just raise your hand, and so the chair and the speaker can take your question. And also, if you have time after the session, please join the conference chat to mingle with your peers and network with the speakers and ask questions to them as well. And now I'll invite Aftab Siddiqui to proceed with your SIG forum, please.
Thank you, Sunny, for the quick update. You heard the message that the voting is still open, right? When is it closing?
It will close tomorrow. I have a presentation on that.
Okay.
If you allow me to, please.
Yes, please. I think if you want to do it, let's do that one right now.
Yeah, I'll wait for your welcome note and then I'll.
Okay. Yes. So thank you everyone for joining this session. This is now I'm lost count of how many sessions we have done on routing security SIG. So finally, it is a permanent feature of the APNIC and Apricot session as well. And welcome all of you to this session. I'm just trying to look at everybody. This is an open meeting. So if you have any question, if you have any concern, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat or ask the presenter. So we do have a good lineup. Again, we have a quick presentation from Sunny explaining the process of the voting. Then we have Max Stuckey and an old friend of mine, Lorenzo Cogotti, who will be doing some presentations. And then I have an open mic, open discussion session right at the end. Hopefully we'll spare some time for that. So this is the whole agenda for today. I'll hand it over to Sunny to move on quickly. Sunny.
Thanks, Aftab. I'm sure most of you already have seen this presentation. Yesterday I have did it in NIR SIG and Cooperation SIG. But let me quickly go through it. Just bringing up the slides. Hope you can all see the presentation. Yeah. So we have SIG and IANA-RC elections this year at this conference, and they're all online because of the conferences being online as well. So a quick reminder of the elections, especially for this SIG, we have 2 positions open for the routing co-chair. And also we have other positions open for other SIGs as well, as you can see. The IANA-RC, we have 1 position open, and that's a community position that elected by the community members. So when you please taking part in these elections, please also vote for the IANA-RC elections. Call for nominations was sent on 6th of August and closed on 6th of September. That's exactly 1 month it was open. Those members who are getting elected to the SIG will serve for 2 years from end of this conference, APNIC 52 conference, to the end of APNIC 56 conference. And the person getting elected to the IANA-RC will serve 2-year term as well, but from 1st of January 2022 till 31st of December 2023. And here are the nominations. I'm not going to go through them, but the nominee statements are on the website. So please, you can visit the APNIC 52 conference website to look at the nominee statements, and then you can select your views. Voting eligibility, you must be registered, and I'm sure you're all registered because you have already joined this session. Must be registered for the APNIC 52 conference. The deadline was 10 a.m. on Tuesday, 14th of September. And you also must be registered and attended at least one of the past 8 Apricot or APNIC standalone conferences, all the way from APNIC 51 to APNIC 44. Eligible attendee voting, you have 1 vote each, and you can use the Big Pulse voting system, the same system that we used for the NRO-NC elections as well as the APNIC-EC elections. You simply log in to the system, and the voting period already started on 14th of September at 12 p.m. and it will close on tomorrow, 16th of September at 2 p.m. UTC+8. Now, if this is the first time you're voting in an online election with APNIC, some screenshots to explain. You log in, and I'm sure you're all logged in, so you're accessing the Zoom platform. But you go back to your login where you see your name, and you click on your name, and you should be able to see the My APNIC dashboard. Once you're in My APNIC, on the left side of the image, you can see there's highlighted vote now or voting. You click on that, and on the right side of the image, then you see the list of candidates and various positions as well, so you can cast your vote. Declaration of results will be at the AMM tomorrow, 16th of September, and the election results will be announced by the election chair. Election chair this time is Kue Wu. He was appointed by the APNIC-EC. He's independent of any APNIC member or the candidates participating in this election, and he has no interest in the election results. His responsibilities are to oversee the election process, appoint election scrutineers, declare the election results, and resolve any disputes that he may receive. The election officers appointed by the APNIC-EC are for NRO-NC election, Andre and Connie Chan from APNIC. For SIG chairs and IANA RC election, that's myself, Sunny from APNIC as well. And our responsibilities are to administer the call for nominations, manage the voting process, retrieve the online voting results in front of the scrutineers, report the results to the election chair, and answer any questions or queries from the members and voters. Now, the scrutineers are, as appointed by the election chair, Champika Vijayatunga from ICANN and Madhavi Gokul from AFRINIC. Now, they will be observing the download of election results virtually by us, election officers, and they notify the election chair in case any disputes or any anomaly or anything identified. Notice of disputes must be received by the election chair no later than 1 hour before the scheduled declaration of election results, and the election chair shall resolve the disputes at his discretion. Now, just a reminder, the voting is already open, so you can jump online to the Big Pulse, log in, or if you're not logged in, if you're already logged in, just go back to your login process, and then you can cast your vote. The voting will close tomorrow at 2 p.m. UTC+8, and the results will be announced in the AMM at 3:15 UTC+8. Thank you, Aftab. That's all from me.
All right, thank you so much. It was a lot of information. So as Bajrika shared the link of the slide, so if you want to refer to something on the slide, please go to that link and make sure that you do cast your vote if you are eligible, because that is an important thing. And there are a lot of candidates for a lot of positions, so we need to see your voting. And of course, we need 2 co-chairs, and it will be quite unjust if I do not thank my current co-chair, that is Dr. D. Ma and Rupesh Shrestha, who have supported the routing security SIG from the very beginning. I mean, when we started as the BOF and then moved into we did multiple sessions, and then finally it became a SIG. Of course, it is still at the early stage. We are still trying to come up with different ideas and doing certain things to make sure that we engage more community. But I would like to really thank both of them, Dr. Dima and Rupesh Shrestha, for helping me out and making this so far, and hopefully they'll be part of it moving forward. And you have already seen the candidate list, so hopefully see the best candidate moving forward as part of the co-chair. Right, so it was now going towards the presentations. First of all, we have Max Stuckey, messaging him in the past from RIPE-NCC training team. Now he's my colleague at work, so I'll just hand it over to him to explain what he's going to present and what he is talking about. Max, over to you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'll share my screen here with the slides, and after, can you confirm everything's okay?
Yep, looks good. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. Over to you.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good morning for those in Europe. I want to present a small tool that at ISOC we have presented about a couple of months ago. We called it internally ROAST, the ROA statistics tool. It's a tool to visualize ROA or BGP validation by country and by ASN, which is the evolution of a small script that I had started working on some years ago. Aftab saw it. I sent him some results showing, basically, it was just meant to show the statistics of ROAs and validation in one country. And then we decided to try to run it over the whole world, create snapshots, and then visualize what this had created. So you can find it at roa-stats.manage. And when you join, when you open that URL, this is what you see. It gives us a snapshot, a daily snapshot, basically, of the statistics of what is seen by this tool when it does a run, both in IPv4 and in IPv6. And then you can see a country. And so if you run an ASN, you can have an idea of the view of what your validation is in a given moment. Now, this is relatively simple, and this gives you just one single view. But what are the peculiarities here? Because there are other tools already that are available. There's one from IIJ. You could use the difference is that here this tool picks all the prefixes seen by RIPRIS. So even all the more specifics, all of them. So this has allowed us, this was the little bit of value to what we were showing with the tool, because then we could see even the smallest misconfigurations. There are some very small misconfigurations because they were announcing inside their own network /64s that, well, you would see announcements for /64s that were coming from a different ASN, but out of their own space. There were tiny cases where you see this happening. And this would be hidden if we were looking at just normal dumps. Normal BGP adds this tiny little bit of value to the tool. So how does the data collection process work? We get all the prefixes. We use RIPStat per country divided by the single country. We get out of these prefixes, we get all the more specifics. So we ask RIPStat, basically tell me everything that's more specific inside this prefix you're seeing. And we get still via RIPStat the ASN that is announcing that prefix for all of them. And then we apply root origin validation. Using a special, every single one of the data collectors we use gets all the data via RPKI RTR from a local validator. So it does its own validation in place. We don't rely on RIPStat. At the beginning, the tool did that, divided the process across different IP addresses, different systems. It was still going very, very slow. So the idea to make it go a bit faster came for itself, because the data collection now takes about, which is coming, hopefully. The process is done, and this is the fun part with a little bit of detail on a Turing Pi, because what you need for this is basically a lot of small agents or workers, and basically they run these are small pies that are running their own client written in Python. Have a second one that's ready to go, although at the moment the hard part is finding the compute modules to add to it. So I haven't been able to use a second the second Turing pie yet, although that's in plans when new compute modules come alive. The front end you see when you check the tool is written in Flask and makes use of the same database. There's a shared database. We put all the data in, basically stays in MongoDB for leveraging everything we have collected so far, showing the covering rows for valids and especially the invalids so that operators can see where the problem is. And then we have had a series of suggestions over the course of the last couple of months. So we have a small roadmap, although what you have to consider is that this is a sort of a side project inside Manners. So we're going a bit slow at the moment, but we hope to improve this in the coming months. One of the ideas we floated around would be to add a monitoring functionality, something similar to what BGP Alerter does, but hosted and run with a bit more views from the side of this tool, where operators can say, tell me if anything is changing related to my prefixes, to my everything inside my ASN. And then one of the ideas we have, but this is more long-term, is to collect data from the streaming API rather than taking a snapshot every day. So moving to something that's more real-time. But again, this is more of a long-term. So if you have any suggestion or request, feel free to email manners@manners.org with anything you have. If you see anything wrong, we are aware of a couple of bugs for a couple of edge cases, but we're working to fix them. And apart from that, enjoy the tool and tell us if you find it useful, or especially also if you don't find it useful and you think that adding something else would make it more useful for you. So I'm happy to take any questions right now. And I don't see any questions in the chat, but maybe Aftab has some ideas.
So no questions so far, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat, or you can ask, I'm not sure if you can just simply unmute yourself and ask as well. So because we do have quite a lot of people, I cannot see a lot of names. But anyway, so if you want to reach out, you know how to reach out to Max, right? If you don't know how to reach out to Max, then it's a big problem. So just make sure that you can reach out to Max if you have any question, concern. If you think your AS number is not properly showing the results, then please reach out to us, and then we can have a look. So thank you so much, Max, for providing this quick feedback.
Thank you.
And thank you for doing it early in the morning. So hope to see you soon. Thank you so much. Right. So next we have Lorenzo, and you must have seen him in the past wearing a different kind of hat. And he has presented in a couple of events, and he's been part of some really good work, and he will explain what was that. And he's coming up with some more good work. So I'll hand it over to Lorenzo to explain what he's working on these days, and how it is and why it is so important for the community to have a look at it. Lorenzo, over to you.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect. Okay. I'll share my screen, so hopefully you might see something better than my ugly smack. So let me check. And all right. Can you see my screen?
We seeing the presenter. If you start the presenter mode, then we will see the right one. Or you want to do
Okay.
it this way? It's fine.
I think I started sharing the screen with the presentation. Sorry for my...
That's fine. You can go ahead. It's okay.
Okay. So let me start the presentation. Okay. Okay. I'm here to talk to you about the MicroBGP suite, a new project I am undergoing with the 14 CodeForge, an initiative to support independent research and software development. Now, to understand what this project does, first I'd like to share a couple of details about root collectors. As many of you might know, root collectors are essentially routers that establish connections, regular BGP sessions with their peers, in particular exchange points. And essentially, they are passive observers. So they collect any information regarding routing, essentially accessing the BGP announcements from their peers, and they do nothing other than storing them with a bit of metadata, such as timestamps and relevant peer information. And now this is truly an important information for network analysis because it allows to essentially have a view on time about routing and the network topology. In particular, it's very important for diagnostic, security, and some sort of debugging. So we can access information for misconfiguration, something that regular BGP looking glass can't do. Now, all the data is collected in MRT format, and it's a standard format defined by RFC 6396. And it's further down compressed using well-known algorithms. All this information is mostly available for free by root collecting projects such as RootViews or Ripen CC RIS. And this is truly a useful information and a useful thing to have. It's truly remarkable. Now, few of you might know about BGP Scanner, a tool I developed in the past for the Isolario project, trying to satisfy the necessity for an MRT parser with performance in mind. Suffice to say that routing information for a month, for a period of a month, may very well reach 1 terabyte of data in its uncompressed form. It's equivalent to 30 gigabytes of compressed data, and this should convince you that efficient tools are required to make sense of such a vast amount of data, and probably they should work with the compressed version rather than requiring full decompression. Now, the peculiarity of BGP Scanner was that it had a simple text-based output, so it could interoperate very well with other familiar tools without requiring special knowledge or special libraries. They could just parse the text output using any sensible scripting language or even the basic Unix shell. And it also offered filtering features. So a user could extrapolate only relevant data out of a vast amount of BGP information that was probably just noise to the analysis at hand. Now, coming to the real star of the show, the MicroBGP suite, it is basically an evolution over BGP scanner, and it wants to be completely standalone, and in particular, legacy-free. As I've mentioned before, BGP scanner was part of a larger project, the Isolario project, and it had a necessity to be a good citizen to the Isolario project. So it had a lot of legacy constraints, and it suffered from the fact that it had to be to satisfy the Isolario project necessity. So the MicroBGP suite is completely standalone, legacy-free, and it's completely open source. So it's not an open source portion of a larger project, but rather completely free and open source. And it was also an effort to fix some past mistakes of mine due to ignorance of this on the subject at the time. It has been, the code base has been rewritten from scratch, and obviously bugs were harmed during the process, but no worry, there are more, so nothing lost there. Now, the MicroBGP suite is not just a collection of tools, but rather a collection of tools and software libraries. So developers that have a special necessity that can be addressed using the BGP scanner, the BGP Grip and MicroBGP suite libraries can benefit from full access to the low-level interfaces. It's fascinating to developers, especially developers like me who like to torture themselves with C and enjoying doing that. Now, one of the guiding principles of the whole code base and the whole tools in the MicroBGP suite is being simple and relatively low level in a sense that there are no particular abstractions. It's in a way intuitive. Doing things in a simple way is a virtue because there are less things to do, so less bugs are introduced. When the tools are more intuitive, they are easier to learn and easier to take advantage of, and even adaptable. I mean, if somebody has to do something that is not exactly what I'm doing, given that the project is open source, he has all the right to take the code and change it and adapt it all the way. This gives us flexibility, in particular, flexibility by using simple and quick methods such as scripting and output piping, because keep in mind that most of the MicroBGP suite tools are just regular shell scripts that produce output in text form. So I'd like to focus a bit on BGP Grip, which is the direct successor of BGP Scanner. It does just one simple thing. It takes an MRT dump in its compressed form, optionally. It decodes the data it applies any filter if necessary and formats the result in a user-readable form. A user-readable form that is also quite easy to parse, which is an inheritance from the BGP scanner tool. It uses the same output, so people using BGP scanner might be already familiar with the produced output. So the tool is relatively intuitive. It is easy to understand, and it offers a completely new and more intuitive command line interface. Filters are much more readable, and you will see more about it in a few minutes. Now, people like me who enjoy C like to perform a few benchmarks. And I've made a few benchmarks to compare the BGP Grep performance to BGP Scanner. BGP Scanner used to be quite fast already. In some previous talks and articles, I've shown how it was able to achieve up to 6 times the performance of similar tools back then. BGP Grep improved the situation a bit. On my regular laptop, as you can see, it was able to perform the dump of 44 gigabytes of uncompressed data regarding 1 month collected by the Oregon University root views Sydney root collector. As you can see, it brought a relatively significant improvement on the whole performance. It was about 12% faster than BGP Scanner. And the whole benchmark was performed on uncompressed data and trying to minimize any interference from the system. So it was performed without a graphical session and basically with just the benchmark running. And well, to further to increase accuracy, it was the result is an average of 10 runs of the benchmark.
So Lorenzo, quick one. The slide is cutting off at the bottom. So if you can reduce the size, or it's not in the presenter mode. That's why we cannot see
I'm really sorry because I'm unfortunately new to to online presentations. So
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's always a problem.
I am sorely sorry because
that's perfect.
Unfortunately, I am using full screen, but apparently you are just seeing the non-full screen version. I'm really sorry about that. Probably it's a problem with my setup. So this is the benchmark as you've seen before, and the results are what I've said before. So the benchmarks are all good, but they are not the main concern, the main reason for BGP Grep being relevant. In fact, the best part is its command line interface, and probably a lot of people thinks, rightfully so, that shell tools are obsolete, and for some tasks, this is perfectly true. But I might show you some demo that perform useful work with shell dump, with MRT dumps directly from your shell. For example, let's have a quick look at what BGP Grep might do for you. So we don't need the full screen anymore, and that's good. So let's see what it can do. I prepared a few demo data here. from various root collectors. Let's try to perform some dumps on maybe the Sydney collector. So to dump their content, the MRT contents in a human readable form, it's sufficient to invoke BGP Grep on the data. As you can see, there is quite a lot of data. It's, I believe, 1 month of data, starting from the initial snapshot of what the root collector could see, all the way through the end of the month.
And Lorenzo, we are still seeing the slide deck.
My God, I am new to that. Let me reshare the screen with the terminal. So now you should see that my console. I'm terribly sorry for this.
All good, all good. Go ahead, no problem.
So all you can do is dump the data. This was the command I used. So basically BGP grep with all the relevant dump I wanted to show. As you can see, there is a lot of information and it might not make sense at the beginning. Thankfully, we have a manual page explaining the whole output format. As you can see, the output format follows a relatively simple convention. There is the type of the information, all the prefixes announced or withdrawn, and some attributes about the path. At the end, it comes all the information about the peer. Now, the output was made like this in order to be easily parsable, as I've mentioned before. In fact, for example, we can restrict all the output to only announcements by simply using grep. Plus is the identifier for announcements. And now, as you can see, everything from the initial snapshot is removed because it's not considered an announcement. And anything from the updates is shown. Now, this is really simple and a no-brainer. Any tool could do that. What's really important is the fact that we can filter the data. So, for example, we can find any announcement, any record containing a loop in the AES path. Loop shouldn't be there, but unfortunately they happen as a result of misconfiguration or maybe something else. In case we wanted to obtain such information, it's enough to add a filter to the command, which is, and it is just loop. So I want everything containing a loop. And why doesn't it work? Oh, loops, I mean. So as you can see, now the output is reduced and it contains anything with loops in the AES path, such as this, for example. This is a loop. And we can apply other arguments, such as we want loops or bogons. And now we have more information about loops and bogons. Now, BGP grep can also work on announced networks or withdrawn data. Team Sinru, for example, does a wonderful job publishing bogon addresses. Bogon addresses are, informally speaking, unallocated address chunks that shouldn't be announced by any router. For convenience, I have downloaded the bogons list from Team Sinru, and we can use that directly with BGP Grep. So for example, we can ask BGP Grep anything containing a subnet from a file. And now BGP Grep is giving us anything containing a loop or a bogon AS or a subnet that shouldn't be announced. You might now realize how BGP Grep can be useful for security purposes. It can give us a lot of information pertaining to data that either shouldn't be there or is there for misconfiguration or maybe for malicious purposes. We might also want to see a subset of the whole data. So for example, data that has been announced in a particular instant in time, maybe because we know when an attack took place. So we want only data regarding that attack out of a month or more of data. So now BGP Grep is giving us, we want anything with loops AS or subnet at a specific time. As you can see, now BGP Grep is giving far less results because it's restricting the query to only a second of data. To top it off, BGP Grep is benefiting from this because the more data it cuts away without formatting, the faster it is. For example, I will take a small amount of data and I might show you that BGP Grep actually completes in real time without interrupting it. It goes through all this data I have collected in. Come on, BGP Grep, you can make it. I believe it should take about 10 seconds or so. So as you can see, BGP Grep is just a simple shell tool, but it can do a lot with relatively, it took more, about 42 seconds. And the whole data was, it was 35, let me show. It was 44 megabytes of BZIP2 compressed data, which is a pain to decompress. In fact, I believe it should have completed much faster if it wasn't the case. So, BGP, I hope I've convinced you that even simple shell tools can do a lot to make your life easier with network analysis. Its format is very easy to manipulate directly from shell. For example, we could pipe everything to an awk script or to any Python script to collect only the relevant output from BGP Grep. And the best thing is that it's fast. It only works on simple data that anybody could obtain with ease. So I am done with my presentation. I'm really sorry for all the problems I went through. And well, if you have any question, feel free to ask, and I'll be happy to reply. A special thanks to anybody who gave me the opportunity to be here presenting my work to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Thank you so much for your efforts. Myself, being a big fan of BGP scanner in the past, I have literally moved to BGP Grip now. So this is really very nice. So there are a few questions. One is from Sanjaya, that if you can post the GitHub repo link on the chat, that would be great.
Sure.
And the blog post you wrote regarding that would be nice as well.
Sure.
So if there are any other question, please feel free to jump in. How can we have this data to use BGP Grep? So the data is coming in from Route Views server. So if you go to the routeviews.org, you will find all the MRT dumps there. And if you have any questions about the route views dump, we have Philip Smith. He can answer that. The data is from the route views dump, and it is also, you can also use RIPE-RIS data. They also provide the MRT dumps as well. So it's up to you what type of data you want. So no other questions so far. Thank you, Lorenzo, for your efforts and doing the presentation. And you did a good job, by the way. So don't worry. It's we all make mistakes. I've been doing it for a very long time, and it's always which screen to share is always a tricky one. So not an issue. So thank you so much for that. And if people have questions, they can reach out to you via email. If you can drop it on the chat as well, that would be great.
I will do.
Good. Now, so quickly moving into the last session of last discussion point of our session. It is more of a follow-up on what we have done in the past and what we are talking about and where are we heading now. So what I will do is I will share my screen and see if I can do it in one go or not. So I am sharing my screen. I'm not sure if I'm doing a good job or not. So let's see how it goes. Right. Which screen are you seeing? Are you seeing the right one or the wrong one? Anyway, I'll go ahead.
We can see your slides, Artha, which routing security SIG APNIC 52.
Perfect. Go ahead. Yes. So one thing we discussed last time, and thanks to George Michelson last time, he did a presentation on where we are at the moment in terms of where APNIC is at the moment and where what kind of features they are developing. So it was a very nice discussion on CPS, and they of course demonstrated that a new CPS is also published during the last session. So one of the questions which was left at that time still is there. And that was a response from the APNIC last time, was the internal monitoring and on-call is running all the time. Current model for external notification is 24/7 yet, and 24/7 NOC is under discussion internally. It's not a question for, I mean, if there is anyone from APNIC who can answer that, that would be great. But this is something which I believe that it's still a pending thing from APNIC. When we are asking the operators to rely on the routing security through RPKI, it is better to have a monitoring interface from APNIC where people or the operators can say, okay, it is not me, it is APNIC. Of course, if there is a problem, they will notify us, but of course, there should be a status page where you can just have a look and see if there's something wrong. If same is the case with the NIRs, I hope they have something similar. But again, it's just a discussion. If you have any concern on this, that you think it's an overkill, we don't need that, please just unmute yourself and start talking. Right. And the second point is, so these are the 2 points. Is someone saying something? I heard something. No. Now, this is the second point I just wanted to discuss before going into a full-blown policy or something similar. Today, when you create a route object, whenever you create a route object, APNIC will send you an email notification, the one which I have attached here, right, to the origin AS contact, saying a route object created with your ASN. And if you are doing thousands of route objects, you will get thousands of notifications. So you will get it on every time a route object or Route 6 object is created. But if you do the same thing with the ROA, you're not creating a route object, you're only creating a ROA. You do not get any notification. Of course, APNIC does provide a feature where you can manually put in an email address where you can send a notification to that, but it could be to anyone. It could be to any contact. It's not necessarily of the origin AS contact. So this is a question maybe towards the community that, number one, do you see any value to the first notification you receive? Because I was talking to someone quite recently and he was saying, I don't like to see that many notifications. I don't see any reason to have that notification in place. If you don't see any reason for the route object notification, then I'm pretty sure you'll not be interested in the ROA creation notification. But if you are in favor of the notification, then why not for ROA as well? So maybe an open question to everyone if anybody wants to jump in.
Hi, after.
Yeah, D.
This is D.
Yes, go ahead.
So I think this is a really good idea. And what is more, I think we might have a system to get the INR holder notified immediately when its role expired or adversely affected by another issuance of ROA by any other IR holders. You know, my team is working on RPKI resource, RPKI ROA competition detection system. So I think it's really beneficial. And maybe it's a good idea that a separate system is provided by some company to do such service based on the reliant party software to offer this service to the community. Well, that's my opinion and observation.
So, I mean, I understand your point. So this is going a step forward, right? But if you take a step back and say, because APNIC is a RPKI service provider for its member, and right now the notification doesn't happen for if a ROA is created. So what you are doing is really very good, but that's a step forward. So if I'll put that question back to people, that is that notification of just a ROA is created? Because if someone uses your AS number and create a ROA, does it even make any difference to you, right? Of course, if they cannot create a ROA with your prefixes, because they are not allowed to do that, because they don't have this. But in the AS number field, they can put any AS number. And of course, they can put your AS number or somebody else's AS number. I can create ROAs with Google AS number, right? But it means if I create a route object with that, they will get the notification. They are still getting a notification today. But if we do not create a route object and only create a ROA, there is no process of notification. So if you think it is important, we can have that feature enabled. If you think, if you means the community, if the community believes that now it's an overkill, the notification. But my question would be that why you are happy with the route object notifications?
Fakrul here.
Yes, Fakrul and then Masan. First Fakrul and then Masan.
Yeah, it's a quick one. Maybe I can add 2 points over here. So with the first one, I think if we have the feature of opt out for the notification, so maybe help both the team. So if I like to receive 100 notification and I parse it and do something else, I'll opt in and say, send me the notification. And those who said, well, I'm getting a lot of notification, they can opt out and say, I don't need any notification. So maybe that's one of the features I was looking for in terms of notification for both the route object, route 6 and the ROA. And the other point you said, like people, if anyone use my AS number and allow their prefix to advertise, I see is like people allowing my SSH public key in their server and asking me to, can you log in, right? So if anyone do that, I don't know why people will do that, but that's a different discussion. But to your point, maybe the feature of opt-in and opt-out might be a helpful feature for people to receive notification.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Masan.
Yes. So I have a similar feeling with Papu, Fakrao, because I don't like the email notification these days, because sometimes it's too chatty. So yes, it's better to have some notification functionality, but it's not necessary to be an email. Thank you very much.
Okay,
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, go ahead, Fakrul.
I'll raise my hand, then I'll come back later. I'll ask Sanjay to go ahead.
Okay, Sanjay.
Yeah, so this is an interesting case because we know that we now Amazon provider BYO bring your own IP service where the customer that needs to do that, meaning Amazon's AS contact would be receiving this email notification, and that this brings to my mind what happens if it's a cross RIR. So the AS number is actually in right. I mean, what right do APNIC have in spamming right members?
Yeah, so right now you are spamming. So, so if there is a possibility of doing, because they are creating a route object anyway. If they are only creating ROA, that's fine. By default, it creates both. So yeah, everybody gets the notification. But I think Fakrul suggestion is just making it opt-in is much more. It makes a lot of sense. Fakrul.
Yeah, just to extend the feature over here, as Mark's son says, like it's sometimes chatty over the email. So I'm not sure whether we can leverage webhook and other new features as an option. So I don't really need an email. Maybe I can hook into my webhook, Slack, whatever, in my NOC, rather than getting an email and have as a reactive response than a proactive. So I get an instant Slack webhook notification to my NOC if anything goes wrong or if I can ignore. So maybe a new feature to add in.
Yes, this is perfect. It's very nicely takes me to the next point, which I wanted to raise is any other question on this one? Sanjay, is it an old hand or a new hand? I hope it's an old hand. If it's a new one, you can.
Sorry, it was an old hand.
Okay, right. So on the point which Fakrulda made is providing a webhook. So why we don't have API access for the ROA management? So creating a webhook, yes, that makes a lot of sense. We have we can connect to our Slack. We can connect to any other piece of software which we are using as our daily work. A lot of things can be done using krill. So why not APNIC can provide the API access for the ROA management, whether it's just getting the ROA details, adding or deleting the ROAs, or creating webhooks for notifications. It does reduces the burden of user access as well. I mean, right now, if I want to create a ROA for the organization I work for, I need to have the right access. And if there are, okay, we don't have a lot of resources, so one person can manage it. If there are multiple people who are managing multiple resources, then you have to create user accesses. And then if you have a API access, you just connect your piece of software or the IPAM you're using, and then connect it to the APNIC API, which solves a lot of problem. So do you think API is a good idea or no? Again, is an overkill, and it will take APNIC away from developing all the other nice tools they can, rather than they do it on API. I am in favor of API, but I'm not a very big service provider, so my use case is very limited. But if people have different ideas about this, then it would be great to hear. So I saw a thumbs up from Fakrullah. If anybody else? If you have something, just say it. Because once I start sharing the screen, it's hard to see who's raising hand. Okay, so if there is no concern, so what I'm planning to do is I'll take it back to the, of course, the reason I put it here, it means I will share it on the AMM, and then take it to the mailing list so that we can have a discussion on that to understand what people are looking for and what we can do with all these suggestions, and come up with more ideas, and of course ask APNIC to provide more feedback on this one. So that brings
make a comment.
Yeah. Yes, Masan.
Yeah, still I have a mixed feeling about the API for RO management. Of course, it needs a strong authentication because, of course, our ROA is critical information for our network management. And then probably only big providers can use it, right? So still not sure it's cost effective for most of our members, because it's a new feature, so APNIC need to develop, right? So
yes,
for
absolutely.
that we need some money put on that functionality. So not sure if it's cost effective or not. So still, I have a mixed feeling. Of course, it's better to have.
Yes, but it's a cost benefit we need to check. So just quick one from Papu, and then we will take it back to the Sunny. Papu, go ahead.
Yes, I quickly. Thanks, Maz, as an EC to consider the money effect into the development. But I think there's a two benefit over here. We are considering the big provider number, that's true, but having an API, I think it will open up the others to develop some product on top of it, right? To leverage others to come up with a great idea, to invoke the API, leverage it, and maybe just we saw the BGP scanner or other. I'm pretty sure by next APNIC meeting we'll have some fantastic idea from someone else if they have the API access on that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Fakulda, that it opens up an opportunity for others to develop something. Good. So let's wrap it up. I will make sure that I'll take this feedback back to the mailing list, and so that we can have the discussion. On that note, I will stop sharing and give you a quick rundown. Thank you so much for joining the session. Please don't forget to vote for the co-chairs. And that's all from my end. I will hand it over to Sunny.
Thanks, Aftab. We have a conference poll for everyone. It will be popping up soon on your screens. I suggest that you continue this discussion maybe in the conference chat. You can join the conference chat during the short break. And we still have 2 more sessions after this, after the break, product and services and lightning talks. So hopefully you can join those as well. But yeah, take it to the conference chat and maybe you can start discussing more about these topics there. Thank you all, and thanks for participating, and thanks to speakers as well. Quickly, if you could please fill in the conference poll, and then we can end this session. Thank you all. Okay.